you're a wise being, you do not partake actually in anything, because you understand that this war between light and darkness will continue as long as people live on this planet Earth, because this is the dimension where there is polarization. There's a spiritual evolutionary polarization, and you incarnate here to experience that. But once you evolve, there's no need to divide reality. There's a different type of dimension then, where this whole is irrelevant. This whole process, what's happening on the earth, is irrelevant. But you need to surpass that in your understanding, where you stop using intellect for just draining yourself. Yes, you understood it, let it be. But you have to understand that everything which is happening is because there is a need. There's a universal need. There's it's a system. It's a global universal system beyond Earth that has been established thousands of years ago, or millions of years ago, you may say.
But maybe even the global system, you mean it is consciousness.
It is consciousness, yes, it is consciousness, because at a particular cycle, there are particular souls that incarnate. And these souls chose this experience, or if they didn't choose, but their frequency, their vibration manifest these experiences so that they can see them, recognize them, or if they don't recognize, they just become a food for this creation matrix. They just lose their essence. So people who like hurt others or create all these kind of things, they lost their spiritual essence. That's why they become like ghosts or nothing, because they are consumed by the projection, by the matrix itself.
Yeah. If you fight or if you engage in any way, then you feed this energy.
Yes, yes. It's the same. The same goes with the interaction. Like once I was explaining one of my adepts about our emotional interaction, because if you think about the matrix and the creation, it's after the creative energy, because it's constantly in need of this creative or sexual, whatever you call, energy. So how does it feed itself? It feeds itself by manifesting situations where your consciousness is engaged emotionally with something. And so this is called copulation with matrix. I call it copulation. The same goes with other people. Other people are in need of someone else's attention. That's called narcissism. And that narcissism is a simple mechanism where the body, our representation in this matrix, which is the body, requires this charge. That's where we flirt. That's where we want to take, capture, think that someone thinks about us. And then we also fall for that. That's why you don't love, you fall in love. So that falling in love process is when you are submitting your consciousness for a short period or whatever period to the matrix, where you project yourself. Instead of cultivating that within yourself, you project yourself outward. It doesn't mean that love in its actual noble form, like unconditional, is bad. Nothing is good and bad. It's just the mechanism of this creation, how creation sustains itself. To sustain creation, you need beings copulating with each other and copulating with the matrix, so that matrix gets a part of that consciousness, a part of that conscious energy to go on, to, continue. That's why you see the symbols of Shiva Lingam, Yoni with the Linga, or cross, or yin yang, because this is the engine. This is the engine. The spirit copulates with the projection, and it seems that something is going on, which is appearance, which is appearing as manifestation. But in fact, it's the consciousness feeding its own projection. And as long as it's feeding it, this projection exists and is relevant for it. The moment consciousness withdraws and cultivates itself, it frees itself from the matrix or from the manifestation. And so there are many, many dimensions and levels of how we tangle with the manifestation. For example, we tangle with the manifestation by projecting ourselves and connecting with the objects. But this is very primitive. We connect ourselves with the ideas, with philosophies, with intellectual thoughts and concepts. We connect ourselves with other people. We project holiness on existence. All of these are ways to tangle and continue different subtleties of this matrix to exist within our consciousness. And so we evolve. Yeah, maybe we detangle on a mundane level, but then there are other subtle levels. And so the more you let go on a subtle level, and the more you really, really cultivate yourself through the present moment, all the time it's a present moment, the more you actually evolve, even through subtle dimensions, because people can also tangle themselves on the subtle dimensions of creation. Yeah, for now it seems to be like magical, like unreal. But if you think about your entire world, for example, you are an inventor, your entire world, all your inventions, your calculations, it's a world. It's a dimension that you've created within yourself, right?
Yes.
So you are copulating with that, supporting it with your thoughts, giving your emotions, especially emotions. Because these emotions, this is like your dispersion. That's why when I was explaining about this ego thing, you feed your creation with your emotions and thinking excessively about some things, certain phenomenon. And also with people, it's even more. People become addicted to interaction on emotional level because they cannot cultivate themselves. So because they cannot cultivate themselves, they lose the essence to the world, but then they need to replenish it somewhere, right? So the way to replenish is this so-called falling in love or romantic idea, this facade. And also, what is it in fact? It's engaging other people's minds into your existence. You understand? Engaging them into you. Luring them, manipulating. That's why so much people are creating philosophies about how to manipulate someone into a relationship, which is a ignorance and degradation. It's a crisis of society. But we have all these coaches and people, how to attract money. What is it? People don't understand that money is nothing but the energy of their intelligence, the emanation of them. If they are intelligent, there is no such a thing as lack of anything, because they know how to manage. Intelligence means you know how to manage. You know when to act and when to abstain. You know how to communicate yourself. You know what you are. You keep yourself whole. That produces abundance. And abundance doesn't mean richness, wealth over the board. Abundance means that everything is right and everything is enough and everything is available at any point of time. The same goes with a relationship or relationships. When you are content, you connect with people through contentment. You are not a vampire. You're not an energetic vampire. But when you connect to people because of a need that you've lost, that essence that you're supposed to cultivate is lost to the world, and now you need to replenish it. The first idea is, I need to fall in love. And it can be even unconscious. It's this sort of search where the body starts feeling very, very anxious, restless, disturbed. The mind starts looking for something that it doesn't know. And people call it a spiritual search. It is, but it's actually the energetic search, because you need to replenish. And what you do, some people say, oh, I need to go and start partying. I need to go start taking drugs. I need that energy to replenish that sense of me that I'm losing to the world, yet I'm unconscious. How can I know that I'm losing it, right?
Yeah, then you are a
I need to
vampire.
go shopping. I need to go studying. I need to do this and that. I need to go and look for another job. It's because this restlessness and anxiety is a fundamental point in our existence, which shows us that our batteries are exhausting, that we are not on the right path. And the right path is the path of self-cultivation. Because if you're on the right path, no matter what is happening externally, you're always content. There's always this feeling of completeness, wholesomeness, contentment, and blissful being. But when you're losing yourself, you are always on the search. And that's what most of the people do not understand, because they feed themselves with these delusional spiritual pseudo ideas that they need to possess something. They need to get something from the reality. I need to get spiritual knowledge. I need to get spiritual technique. I need to go for another course. But this comes from the fundamental inability to tap into your own being, to actually perceive yourself in a simple way as one wholesome being. And so that's where the desire to party, the desire for drugs, the desire for shopping, the desire for being something that you're not already comes. And the desire to pursue this sort of spiritual love, relationship, gurus, ashrams, ideas. This is all delusion, because if someone is truly mature, they will see, they will never ever find anything in this transitory world, no matter how good, appealing, temporarily fulfilling that is. It can be a pleasant experience, but any experience is just an experience as long as it doesn't link you with your own whole or your own inner, corrupt ego that is like a black hole. If it links you to that, and then you become obsessive or become longing and anxious each time you feel that you're exhausted, that you're drained spiritually or energetically, and you again go and pursue that link, or through that link something within the matrix, then you are a slave to the manifestation. And no matter what you have in this manifestation, life can end any moment. But it doesn't mean you cannot enjoy life, because the enjoyment comes from within. If you enjoy your own being, you can enjoy with whoever. But the link is not corrupt. The link with the reality is actually not there. You can enjoy people around, you can enjoy communicating, but you are your wholesome being, your own entity, which consciously interacts with the world without linking, without attaching, without needing, without being that so-called vampire. We have the whole society, the army of longing, hungry, energetic vampires, which are looking for solutions in all these self-development areas, pseudo-spiritual areas, or whatever, even science or art or sex or drugs, or politics, whatever, no matter how they explain the meaning of life to themselves. This desire to pursue something outside of self comes from lack of completeness and wholesomeness. And this lack is propelled by inner emptiness, all these traumas that we experience, which are imposed on us by the corrupt, dysfunctional society, corrupt, dysfunctional family, and lack of knowledge, ignorance basically, about everything, about our history, about our spirituality and everything, leads us to this kind of a quest. But this quest is because we just simply don't know that we can be instead of acting. And it doesn't mean that if you like to do something, that is bad. It means that with which attitude you create or you act in the manifested world. If you act just because you like to do it, but yet the moment that you don't do, when you don't do it, you're again just fine and complete within yourself. That's perfect. It's like having an experience, letting go of an experience, being in the experience wholeheartedly, creative, whatever, and then being without. But when there is this moment of disconnection from the experience, and again longing and trying to copulate with that which gives you a certain kick or a feeling of meaningfulness or energy, then it's a problem. It's called craving for the projection, craving for the illusion. And when you crave for the illusion, you cannot be free. Freedom means I am my own wholesome being. And that's why our society is also suffering so-called spiritual narcissism. It's not just a psychological, it's an overall, it's an overall loss of self, of a healthy identity. And when we pursue through this corrupt identity, spirituality, or anything in this world, we are lost to the world, because we cannot understand spirituality without being able to restore this wholesome identity. But to restore wholesome identity means you have to face your corruption. You have to face your so-called unwholesomeness, or your veils, these traumatic experiences that you have acquired from being a part of the society and dysfunctional family. Even if you're a part of a functional family, but you're a part of dysfunctional society, dysfunctional educational system, and so on and so forth, it impacts your perception. And so before we even go into spirituality, or even can come a little bit closer to spirituality, we have to refine ourselves. We have to refine our mental, emotional being, and restore our individual identity, healthy identity, not the identity that is lost to the projection, the identity that is obscure, divided, and split within, but the identity that is a flow of life, a part of which we are, and which we are actually. We are the life itself, the flow of life. And so when we restore that sense of wholesomeness, realizing that no matter what is happening externally, we are that flow, like the flow of the river that holds everything within. It holds rubble, dry branches, dry leaves, anything that falls into the river, it carries it within itself, right? But in its essence, it's pure, and so we are. We can realize corruption and resolve it, dissolve it within ourselves. We can, it's a long process though, but once you realize what's the issue, you can actually start being more aware of how your corrupt identity creates all that which you experience. And so you can start gradually refining. And only then, when the wholesome identity is restored, you can actually be mature in a sense, you can perceive the higher frequency within yourself. Not just momentarily, but all the time, you can perceive who you are. And only then you can come closer to the possibility of experiencing true spiritual knowledge, understanding its essence, what the knowledge is, because it's not just verbal, it's beyond that. And understand also the path, which is so simple, because you became simple. Because you became simple. Traumas make you complex, make you complicated inside. But refinement of traumatic experiences, dissolution of these experiences, and so-called self-refinement, psychological, mental, emotion, leads you to simplicity. Only when you are simplicity yourself, you are able to discover this knowledge and unravel it, unfold it within yourself, because knowledge is so simple. So if your mind is veiled with complication, that simplicity cannot unfold. It cannot enlighten you from within. But it's already there. It's always there. It's just that you cannot perceive it due to constant bombardation of these ideas, concepts, thoughts, emotions, and this constant giving yourself away or out into the projection. And then again, longing for this projection to give you a sense of self or a meaning when there is no meaning outside of self. And so the first step in this day and age, at this point of our evolution, is to simply heal our identity, restore ourselves to the natural flow. Only then we can talk about something which is of a spiritual, subtle nature, because then we are mature enough to digest such a possibility and to face the multidimensionality of our conscious being. Because so far we cannot even deal with our own body. It reflects all our imbalances and issues. Being sick, being imbalanced, being, our mind, our individual mind shows imbalance. So as long as we are in balance, we cannot understand what is the wholesome flow, because we need to deal with the imbalances, right? So that's the whole point.